Yeah, you stay with your team. It's so good to see you guys. I love your purple. I know, it's so bright. My purple, I know.
Yeah, that's
So guys, we're just waiting. We're waiting to start. We've not begun yet. We're waiting for a podium and some sound.
It's right here. We got Bob.
Oh, hi, Bob. Okay, great. Hey, Bob. Right here. Is this the podium?
I think the podium, yeah. Right
and then we want all Priscilla, make sure that anyone from Priscilla's group is in the front, and that you're not in front of anyone from Priscilla's group, because they are our honored guests.
Testing. Is that good?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something the whole time. But that's okay.
My bad.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, everybody. I know it's a little hectic.
Janet, where do you want us to stand?
Can I give somebody? Everybody needs to stand behind the podium. So back behind here, facing the cameras. And Priscilla, Loki's family is here, and we are honoring her, and they are in the very front. And if you're a speaker, stay up near the front as well. And would someone like to hand out talking points? Somebody would like to hand out the talking points. Anybody want to do that?
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Can we pass them around? Pass the talking points around to people without signs. Thank you. Where's my phone? I am. Oh, it's nice to meet you, Sean.
I'm going with you.
So anyone speaking? Bob, Sean, Andrew, Sarah, Suckling Live, Pam, Vanessa, and John. Okay, great. We'll be calling you. And we haven't started yet, but we thank everybody so much for being here.
Yes.
Yay! This is so important. You know, it's about saving lives and improving our quality of life. And Andrew? Yeah. You want to get started?
No, we'll give it a minute.
We're going to give it a minute or two, everyone. But everyone's facing the cameras.
I think there's some people at the gate that you might want to look at. They're standing at the gate. They kind of look at.
Does anybody want to volunteer to do a quick check of the
somebody
and that gate?
Check the other gates around because there are people that are on the wrong gates. This is the east gate.
Dan, check the gate and see if anybody.
Yeah, the east and the west. We have people on the west gate too. Did you have the preferred voice? Yeah.
So, she's not next. Matter of fact, I don't know if she's. Carol Wilson? Hi. Okay, I just want to make sure you're up close enough too, okay, to speak.
Press release?
Oh yeah, no, just being the mom here.
Andrew, you got a press release on you?
Not on me now.
Okay.
Can you email me later?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so I thought we would do the order Andrew, Janet, Bob, and then Priscilla.
That would be my excellent.
We're going to get started, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. On behalf of victims, future victims, Priscilla. Okay, 2 or 3 minutes because we have people around City Hall that are just getting over here now.
We're just waiting for people that are in the east gate and the west gate that might be lost. Hopefully they'll be here any second. What an amazing crowd, huh? I told the media this would not be a Mickey Mouse rally. And I want to also point out that aside from Bob, there's not one person here who's paid. We are the people. We are the actual people. We're not crisis actors. We're not from Craigslist. We're not getting paid $300,000 by Transalt. We are here as the people. And we'll get started in 1 minute.
I think CBS is here. Spectrum News, right?
Fox 5, 11.
Hicks, WNYC, Fox 5.
The 1, 2, 3, you have to walk down Chambers Street. Take Chambers Street all the way west. From the office.
Can you come back and line with us?
If that works for you.
I know them too well, unfortunately.
Hey, what's up, brother? What's up, man?
I kind of know.
But I was talking Janet, sign upside down.
Oh, I was trying not to actually
Okay.
have it right now here because I don't know if that's kind of not good because it's not showing very well, so I would rather just show it. We're getting started in a couple minutes.
We lost the sun.
Overdevelopment.
Watch the.
Oh, there's Joe. Joe Borelli.
Thank you.
And then I'll introduce you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for showing up today in big numbers. Yeah. To support responsibility and accountability for e-bikes on our streets. We're thrilled to have, I see Joe Borelli is here, Bob Holden, the OG of e-bike registration. Thank you, Bob. Bob is one of our heroes in this fight. And I'm happy to say that with Bob and us together, we managed to bring this bill up to 32 co-sponsors. And we're here really to ask for the City Council to get a grip and come to grips with this problem, vote on this, and get all the e-bikes registered so that they're accountable. We have three major issues with e-bikes. Number one is fires. There are 18 people that have died from e-bike lithium battery fires just this year. At least 145 are injured, and scores are left homeless. And think about it. These people have, the homeless have nothing to do with these e-bikes. You have scores of people that are without a home because their neighbor decided that they were going to charge a funky battery. And this is some serious... I won't use the word.
You need to speak. You need to look.
Secondly, thank you. Secondly, crashes. There are thousands of people injured in crashes every single year. We see people with broken clavicles, broken shoulder bones, dozens of broken ribs. We have partial paralysis. We have traumatic brain injuries. We have, unfortunately, we're happy to have Priscilla Loke's family here and friends, but she unfortunately did not survive an e-bike crash this year, and we mourn her loss and we mourn for you. Finally, there are crimes that are being committed with these e-bikes. It's a regular occurrence. Scooter, e-bike, it's always an escape. And just this last week, J.G. Mellon's on 74th Street. Somebody escaped after shooting on a scooter. The Dayona Deli murder on 82nd Street and 3rd Avenue this year. That was an e-bike. It's the perfect getaway vehicle. And if they're not accountable, why not, right? I mean, it's the perfect getaway vehicle. Bottom line is we're here for accountability, and accountability fosters responsibility. And if we can get these bikes properly plated, it'll make us all safer. And it's time for us to reclaim our streets, reclaim our sidewalks, say the people first, and to the apps, guess what, apps? We're not here to work for you. And City Hall is not here to work for you. City Hall is to work for the people. And thanks to people like Bob Holden, Joe Borelli, we hope that they can convince the majority, which we are the majority, to vote and pass 0758 to register e-bikes. And I bring to you, speaking of OGs, I bring to you Janet Schroeder, who found me on Facebook and was the founder of this fine organization, which is growing by leaps and bounds. So, Janet, thank you so much for being a leader. Thank you so much for your organizing. I mean, amazing. So, big round of applause for Janet.
Hello, and thank you for being here. I am a co-founder, actually, because Pam Maness, who I found through reading about her horrific crash in which she was partially paralyzed, and you'll hear from her in a moment. We started this group earlier this year. We want our streets and sidewalks and parks free from rogue riders. And the first thing I want to say is we are honored to have Priscilla Loki's co-workers, friends. They're basically her family. Her niece is out of the country or would be here. Thank you for being here. This day is for Priscilla. We want safety for all. There is nothing more important than our health and safety. We want to save lives, we want to prevent injuries, and we want to improve our quality of life, which has been greatly diminished due to the crisis that we see all around us on our streets every day. We are not selective about safety. We aren't. We want the most vulnerable New Yorkers and all pedestrians, as well as cyclists and e-vehicle riders. No matter what vehicle maims or kills someone, it is equally horrific. It is important to note that, like Andrew said, not one person in our group is paid to do this, nor do we pay anyone. We are of the people. We are not a lobbying group. Our agenda today is pure. Accountability leads to better behavior, and it makes all of us safer. It's really that simple. It's important to remember that. We started from, like I said, learning about Pam. She is going to talk in a moment. Also, Lisa Bain's death a couple years ago on the Upper West Side. But who gets forgotten a lot is the elderly and the disabled, the blind and the deaf. I have people on my street that are older that don't want to go to the park anymore, don't even want to walk out on the sidewalks anymore. This is sad. This is an already isolated group that now that isolation has been exacerbated. This is a crisis. 3.2 million people are over 65 in New York State. And 65 years and older is the fastest growing demographic in New York. Let's not forget that these are the older voters vote a lot more than younger voters. So we need to be listened to. Our mission is based on common sense. When the opposition says, but what about the cars? Cars are already licensed and registered, and thank goodness they are. Of course they should be, and they should follow all the laws and rules of the road. Can you imagine if they weren't? Accountability through license and registration mitigates bad driving behavior, and it will mitigate bad riding behavior. This is basic psychology. It is also common sense. And we started this group because of an unmet need. Sorry. All vehicles with motors are dangerous. And beloved Priscilla Loki was killed by an e-city bike. City bike riders are some of the most egregious on our streets. Let's keep that in mind. And again, we're so honored to have you all here. Our 50-plus members who are victims of e-vehicle moped crashes, of our 500 members, represent such a small portion of victims in New York City. It's important to note that though most of our victims are pedestrians, we have over 50 cyclists in EVSA, 2 professional cyclists. John Campo is here. 11 of the cyclist members hit by e-bikes while on their bicycles. So this is about safety for everybody. Mitigating these crashes will only be achieved by accountability, and that is why we support Bob Holden's Bill 0758 for registration and licensing. And I just want to mention, accountability is the key word. We must see accountability from the city. We've heard nothing from the mayor about just following the basic laws and rules of the road. If someone's crashed into on a sidewalk and doesn't have insurance, who pays?
Yes.
We need accountability. Sorry. There's no accountability from delivery platforms. They don't employ or insure their riders. They don't require safety tests. There's no accountability from City Bike. Pedal assist can be deadly. Some of the worst riders are on City Bikes. Zero accountability. If a rider gets killed or hurt from a City Bike, they say it's on the rider. EFSA is working on all of these issues, but today is about Bob Holden's bill. And I lastly want to talk about reporting. When we look at the DOT stats, they are completely wrong. There is no category for e-bikes or mopeds on a police report. So you know who knows the real stats? A new member of ours, Dr. Daniel Murphy. He is Chief of Emergency Medical at St. Barnabas Hospital, and he wanted to be here today, but I spoke to him this morning, and he said, we are seeing consistent, steady numbers of high acuity injuries, including fatalities from e-vehicles and moped crashes. Full stop. As far as numbers are concerned, the numbers of injury and acuity from e-bike and moped crashes are getting worse by the day. Dr. Daniel Murphy, Chief of Emergency Medical at St. Barnabas Hospital, said that today. Lastly, we have opposition who thinks machines with motors hurling through our streets, crashing into people, maiming and killing them, and diminishing the quality of life for all of the New Yorkers should not be registered and licensed. We don't agree.
No way!
So if you care about safety at all, you have to care about safety for all and from all vehicles. They also need to be off our subways and our buses. They all so dangerous. They also need to be, vehicles need to be out of our parks. Thank you for being here. Bob Holden.
The floor is yours.
Just one note before Bob comes on. I wanted to thank Christy Marmorato's staff. She's the newly elected council member of the 13th District in the Bronx. And she'd love to be here, but she's in training in City Hall right now. Without any further ado, here is Council Member Bob Holden.
Thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Janet. I don't know where we'd be without you guys. Amazing, amazing people who care about safety in New York City, unlike the administration. If you think about this. What has the city's response, what has the city council's response been to all this mayhem in our streets? Well, sleep at the wheel is a good one. I use that a lot, by the way. Here's the problem. We and the city council passed laws. Now, there was a law, and my good friend Oswald Felice, council member, came up with a bill that would actually make these, let's talk about charging these batteries. It's killing 18 people already this year, and I think there's a lot more. They'll find out when they do more research. A lot more people have been killed. In their homes, while they're sleeping, these batteries explode. So the city's council's response to this has been, well, let's take these illegal batteries, the ones that explode, let's take them off the market. But we'll give the merchants 6 months to get rid of them to the public. That is insanity. We're going to dump the batteries that explode and kill everyone. We're going to give the merchants 6 months to get rid of them and dump them on the public. My response was, no, make them illegal immediately. So how many lives have been lost because of that decision to wait 6 months? It's ridiculous. Now, here's another one. Where's Ydanis Rodriguez, our commissioner of DOT? What has he said about this? What are my idea, and again, Andrew's and your organization and Janice, is to register these vehicles, right? Let's find out who they are. Because how many actual e-bikes do you see stopping at a red light or observing traffic laws? Now, I came up with a figure of 95%, and I was corrected by reporters that say, no, they think it's 99% of the... So, I never see reporters like correcting me on my stats, because usually I tend to exaggerate sometimes. This time I'm not. And I think at this point we're seeing lawlessness in our streets, but where is Ydanis Rodriguez? Where's the city council? My bill, by the way, with the help of Andrew and Janet, we got up to 34 co-sponsors, and of course, Transportation Alternatives picked 2 of them off. So we're now with 32. What's Transportation Alternatives, who are supposed to be about safety? What's their suggestion? I haven't heard it. Build more bike lanes. Well, what about when we get to the corners? What about when we get to the crosswalks? I always say, And I said this years ago, the most dangerous place to be in New York City is in a crosswalk as a pedestrian. Now you have to have eyes in the back of your head because they come from every different direction. They come from the sidewalk itself. They come from the crosswalk. They come from behind you. They come from in front of you. And the next thing, they'll be flying in the air. I mean, God knows what is going on in New York City. What is going on? Why? Where are the leaders to come forth? And again, I got the 34 co-sponsors. Where's the hearing?
Yeah.
Why don't we have a hearing on this bill?
Hearing now.
Is to some
Hearing
now, hearing now, hearing now.
Hearing now. Let me hear you in there. Hearing now.
I'm going to come back. I want to introduce the Minority Leader of the New York City Council, Joe Borelli, my good friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Andrew. Forgive me for not speaking into these. These are the ones that matter. That's how the other people can hear us. Just keep that in mind, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
You know, we have big, heavy metal things that move all over our city every single day. They're called automobiles. Big, heavy, mechanical things that are called automobiles that every single day injure and maim countless New Yorkers. That's one standard. And that standard should be the same thing whether that machine is driven by gas or whether it's driven electricity. Or whether it's driven by your pedals sometimes and electricity other times, or whether it's driven by totally gasoline. These things shouldn't matter. We're talking about public safety. E-bikes and scooters and stuff like that aren't going anywhere. They're going to be a part of our future, especially with congestion pricing. You're going to see more and more delivery people use them. They're going to be more prevalent, not less. And they started out like a novelty, like drones. Some kids would have a model airplane, some kid on the block got a drone, and now they've gotten to the point where they're causing a safety concern. So what did we do in the city, in the state, and the federal government? We made rules about drones. We have to interact with them. Well, the same thing holds true with e-bikes. They were a novelty. Now they're a source of transportation for countless New Yorkers. And we're not going to see the last of them. And we have to live with them. But we can't live with them if we can't enforce rules. We can't live with them in our apartments if they're going to explode and kill our neighbors. The only way we can do any regulation of e-bikes is if we get them licensed and tagged. And that's all this bill does. That's all we want to happen. And that's why we need the mayor and the city council speaker to come together and join us with this and move this bill downfield. We need a hearing now before the end of the year. And we need this bill passed before the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Thank you, Bob. I want to also say that the main reason we're here and the main reason this group was started was for the victims. And again, we are honored to have Sukling Lai, on behalf of Priscilla Loki, her friend for 30 years, I believe, the director of Head Start Chinatown.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming out in such a cold weather and to support the bill. My name is Sukling Lai, the director of Chinatown Head Start. Priscilla Loki, the assistant director, worked at Chinatown Head Start for more than 40 years. Priscilla was a dedicated and beloved staff who devoted her whole life to the community work and helping parents of children 3 to 5 years old to adjust themselves to their new life. She also conducted home visits to ensure that living in a quality environment. She assisted parents to apply for housing, taught ESL classes, citizen classes, and referred parents to community agency as needed. Her services were invaluable. Priscilla worked with passion and care to be sure the immigrant parents understand the education system to their children would integrate successfully in school and in our city. New York City benefits from children who have strong foundation of early development. She was 69 years old and planned to retire in 2024. After retirement, she planned to help care for her nieces and nephews' children in the United States and in the UK. Her plan was shattered by a careless bike driver who ran a red light in broad daylight and hit Priscilla on September 5th. She was unconscious for 3 days and passed away on September 8th. Hundreds of people attended her funeral in Chinatown. For more than 15 days, her family and friends had no idea who struck Priscilla. Chinatown has strongly requested the City Council to pass the law which require all e-bikes to be registered and licensed. At a minimum, the victim and the families need to know who the e-bike drivers are. They need to be held accountable for the accident they caused. Prior to this tragic accident, Priscilla was in a very good health. She deserved to look forward and enjoy her retirement years. Her niece and nephews, children, are deprived of her love and expertise working with children. We, members of the staff, board of directors, parents and parents alumnus of Chinatown Headstart fully support passing the bill, and we look forward for that day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sixth Light. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Priscilla Loki, again, that's the main reason we're here, right? The next person I want to introduce is Pam Manasseh. Pam Manasseh and I started this group in January, February. We had like 2 people and then 4. And she's at the heart of this group. I hate to say the original victim, but that is true. And this is her husband, John Manasseh.
Hello. As you already had found out because of Janet, my name is Pamela Manasseh. I thank you all for coming out in support of EFSA and Bob Holden's bill for e-vehicle safety.
Thank you all for being here. You are our angels. As Bob Holden said, we need to do something about this. I am John Manasseh. I'm Pam's husband for 34 years. And just to give you some personal context about our situation, on July 19th of 2022, we were victims of what we call a vehicular assault by a moped. While in a crosswalk, I watched helplessly. This is really hard for us to keep reliving, by the way. While on a crosswalk, I watched helplessly as a moped sped off the sidewalk and slammed into my wife. She was left lying unconscious on burning July pavement in the middle of Broadway. I rushed into action with others to apprehend the assailant. The police came. Pam and I were whisked away in an ambulance. The assailant was released at the scene by the officers and was spotted eating a pastry and coffee afterwards, basically celebrating his assault. There were no consequences, no breathalyzer, no summons, no fine, no accountability. I was later told by the 20th Precinct that there wasn't any more that could be done. We did get the lamest of response from Mr. Rodriguez, which just amounted to a condolence letter. So a lot more can be done.
Meanwhile, I suffered a traumatic brain injury, and I'm left paralyzed on my right side. I remain permanently disabled, and I've lost my livelihood as a cellist. I lost and mourn this every day. We are all faced with e-vehicles riding on our sidewalks, driving illegally, often going faster than car speeds. No red light cameras for these reckless drivers. They put all of us, our children, our elderly, our disabled, as I am now, in grave danger.
And, we don't want further incidents like this to happen to anyone else, to have to cope with, frankly, these life-changing, emotional, psychological, financial burdens that this misfortune has put on our family. We need help. We feel, as Bob Holden said, we feel abandoned by our city and the mayor. It's getting more dangerous out there. The situation can be addressed better. The city's able to find ways to deal with other issues. Cities come up with installation of noise cameras to penalize motorists whose vehicles are over 85 decibels too loud. Well, that's a great idea. We're musicians. We want to save our hearing. But how about carrying that fine of $800 to $2,500 for a loud vehicle over to e-bike penalties and mopeds who threaten our safety, kill, and maim by riding recklessly and illegally? How many more people have to die or get seriously injured before there's a call to action?
But there is a ray of hope thanks to Council Member Bob Holden's bill, which proposes the necessary safety laws, including licensing, registration, and insurance for all motorized vehicles, not just commercial. We thank the 32 council members who have signed on to this very important safety legislation. And we implore the mayor, the DOT, and the NYPD to support this bill and to enforce the laws that need to be enforced already in place and those that are not in place yet.
Yes, great. Pam, we desperately need this regulation and enforcement. The reckless driving of any two-wheeled, motorized, or electric vehicle should be held, as said before, the same safety and enforcement standard as other motorists. Absolutely. Our hearts go out to the most recent victims and all victims of these crimes, and we feel your pain. It's not easy. We're here to fight for everyone's safety. That's why we're here. For everyone's peace of mind. We're pleading for greater enforcement and regulations to make our sidewalks, crosswalks, streets, and parks safer for all New Yorkers. Those who ride and those who walk.
That's right. Safety for all.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you all. And until next time, always look all ways when crossed.
Thank you, Pam and John Manasseh. Our next speaker, Sarah Pratt, was hit by a city bike, city bike, on the sidewalk in Harlem. Welcome. Oh, okay.
I'm here to tell my story to show currently that there is no NYPD system for reporting e-vehicle crashes. There are no reliable stats for the rapidly rising number of victims like myself. Once the e-vehicle rider has fled, victims are left with no recourse. New York Assemblyman Alex Burris has suggested that a new box for e-vehicle crashes be added to all police reports. As my victim story will show, this simple amendment is urgently needed. This past July, I was heading home from the 125th subway stop on a busy Lenox Avenue sidewalk when I was almost catapulted to the ground by a physical force that just ploughed into me from behind. I've already had a massive seizure caused by a brain tumour, so I'm conditioned to protect my head at all costs. As this unknown force tried to mow me down, my only instinct was not to fall and hit my head. As I regained my balance, a guy who had fallen off his e-city bike in front of me yelled, "What the fuck?" Stunned, but realising this e-bike rider was what had just barreled into me at great speed, I asked, "What are you doing riding that bike on a crowded sidewalk?" I tried to photo my assailant, but he leapt back on his bike and sped off into the night. A woman behind me who had narrowly missed being struck herself helped me home, where I called 911, who registered my case as an assault. New York Presbyterian EMS workers who came to my home said they were attending a growing number of e-vehicle incidents. When officers from the 32nd Precinct finally responded to my 911 call, one said my case sounded like an accident and that all I could do was fill out an online accident form. A friend who had arrived to help me responded, "So if I plough my car into a sidewalk full of people, shall I tell the police it was just an accident?" The officers said they did not have jurisdiction over where I was hit, so I would need to file my report with the 28th Precinct. The next day, bruised and suffering from whiplash, I called City Bike and told an agent my story. His response? City Bike is not responsible for any accidents caused once a bike is hired. I called 311. The operator asked who I wanted to file my complaint against. I said one against City Bike and another against the 32nd Precinct for incorrectly handling my case. New York DOT rules clearly state riding bikes on the sidewalk is prohibited for anyone over 12. I then went to the 28th Precinct, where another officer insisted the police could do nothing. It would seem, despite DOT rules to the contrary, e-vehicles can smash into others on sidewalks with impunity. I told the officer I had a witness. He said the witness would have to come to the precinct and file the report, not me, the victim, as that was just a case of he said, she said. My outrage at this e-civility was growing. Within 24 hours of describing my story to multiple New York City agencies, it was apparent that I had little recourse. I pleaded with the 28th Precinct officer that if this madness is allowed to continue, New York streets will become a bloodbath. Sadly, we are seeing mounting e-vehicle crashes, like the hit and run that left 6-year-old Henry Diaz hospitalized, and the horrific death of Priscilla Locke. The 28th Precinct finally logged my case as an assault. Days later, an officer from the 28th Precinct followed up. He was confused as my case had been recorded as both an accident and an assault. I told him it was neither. It was an e-vehicle crash into a pedestrian on a sidewalk.
That's right.
Yeah.
And riding e-vehicles on the sidewalk is illegal. Officer Siciliano was the first New York City representative I spoke to who agreed it was illegal. He offered to check the cameras where I was hit. But what good would identifying and prosecuting my assailant do for a crime that thousands of others commit daily across this city? My assailant should have learned the rules of the road before he even got on a bike.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead, due to lack of enforcement, he learned otherwise. I found EVSA online the night I was hit. I joined to help ensure that no one who suffers injuries from an e-vehicle collision should have to pay hospital costs out of their own pocket.
That's right.
Or take the ridiculous steps I had to go through to report my crash. Like many other victims walking the streets, I now suffer PTSD from watching for out-of-control e-vehicles and wishing my head had 360-degree vision. Many people I talk to in New York City concur. They are now more afraid of being hit by an e-vehicle than of being hit by a car. NYPD and the city need a system to start logging these crimes correctly. Crashing into pedestrians on the sidewalk should never be reported as an accident or an assault. NYPD needs to start ticketing these e-vehicles terrorizing sidewalks.
That's right.
Running red lights and plowing down people on crosswalks. If you commit an e-vehicle crime, you should pay a fine. If the city and NYPD don't enforce current laws governing the streets, victims like myself will be left with no option but to seek justice through the courts against the city, City Bike, Grubhub, and the manufacturers of illegal e-bikes. I hope that city representatives adopt common sense solutions like those put forward by Bob Holden and Alex Borres to enforce civilized rules of the road for all. Elected officials who don't should be voted out.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much. We're now joined by the 13th District Council member, Marjorie Velasquez, who was one of the very early co-signers of Bob Holden's bill. So thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, if you haven't heard it, to all the victims, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your pain. I'm sorry for the awful reality that we are dealing with. But here it is. Thank you. Thank you to Bob Holden for being an incredible partner on this. And just let's talk about being common sense, right? Let's talk about what our communities need. And thank you for being a loud voice. As you did say, I was one of the first, few co-sponsors because we need to make sure that we're protecting everyone. As I was standing here listening to your testimony, can't help but think my husband suffers from seizures. So it resonates really profoundly with me and deeply. And when we're talking about my district, just recently in Pelham Bay Park, a young girl was hit by an e-vehicle. Young girl. And the hardest part was trying to find this person. Why? How can we track them? Thankfully, and here we have to give credit to NYPD and Parks Department, who do have cameras at Pelham Bay that were accessible, that person got off their e-vehicle and got into a vehicle to escape their responsibility. Because they knew they did wrong. And that's what this legislation's about. We're holding bad actors accountable. We're making sure that we are saying that enough is enough and our communities cannot be terrorized like this any longer. That we are saying, sure, everyone deserves a right to ride a bike, an e-vehicle as they should. But at the same time, there's a responsibility to not only each other, but certainly to our community. And that's what we're doing today. And so, you know what? Thank you all. Let's keep on being loud. This is the first step of many, as we've heard. And I want to thank our colleague, Alex Borres, what he's doing in the state as well, because together we can, together we will, and together we will all be safer together. So thank you all, and we're here for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember. We have another victim, Carol Wilson.
So, hi, my name is Carol Wilson. I have been hit by a bike, not once, but twice. Both times I was crossing in a pedestrian crossway. I was crossing in the street, on the pedestrian walkway with the walk signal. I was doing everything right. The first hit was in 2020. I saw the walk signal, but I stayed on the curb until I looked around in every direction for a bike. I didn't see one, so I took 2 steps into the street and saw a bike coming straight at me. I put my arm up and I yelled, "Stop, stop." It kept coming. The next thing I remember was looking up at the cyclist straddling her bicycle, yelling at me, "Get up out of the street." I dragged myself to the curb, where I already felt a huge lump on the back of my head. So I cupped my hand around it. I did see she was on the sidewalk. I looked at her city bike to see if there was an ID I might remember. I saw nothing. I asked her to call 911. She did not. She left. I found my phone and called myself. At the ER, they told me I had a skull fracture. Then they said I have to stay 10 hours so I can have a second scan to be sure my brain wasn't bleeding, which was especially dangerous as I am on a blood thinner. While I was there, I did call the police and tell them about the incident. And when I was leaving 10 hours later, thankfully my brain was not bleeding, a detective came to question me and to take a picture of my bloody head. I asked him if he thought they could find the cyclist, and he said, probably not. City Bike does not cooperate with the police. I have a witness that heard him say that. The skull fracture caused me to have vertigo for the next year walking around. But the worst part was I could not read anything for 2.5 years. This was especially devastating because I was working on a research project. The second hit was in 2022. I was crossing 6th Avenue. This time, the bike was hidden in between the lanes of traffic. When the car stopped, he kept coming. He knocked me down. I hit my head again. I passed out, and I had a twisted leg. So now I am terrified to cross a street in New York City. To cross 6th Avenue, I go to the subway station, pay a fare to walk under the tracks so I can come up on the other side. So, looking at my notes. Now, I used to enjoy walking around our city and around my neighborhood. But now, every time I leave my apartment, I know I'm putting my life in danger because of the bikes. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you so much, Carol. We only have a few more speakers. Thank you. I wanted to mention that we have 4 people speaking on behalf of victims today, but we have over 50 in our group. And they comprise of permanent paralysis, 43 broken ribs, 3 brain bleeds, a broken hip with hip replacement, broken shoulder, a woman with 5 titanium plates in her head, broken clavicles, broken feet, broken hands, many knocked unconscious, and all have PTSD. And in all but one case, the rider fled. This is why we need license and registration. I'd like to introduce Yatin Chu from Asian Wave Alliance.
Thank you so much for holding this press conference. It is heartbreaking and shows the urgency of why we need to pass this bill. My name is Yatin Chu. I'm president of Asian Wave Alliance. E-bikes and e-scooters should be licensed and registered just like any other heavy, fast-moving motorized vehicles on our city streets. Asian Wave Alliance wholeheartedly support Councilmember Holden's Bill 758. The proliferation of e-bikes in all corners of our city streets have caused historical spikes in pedestrian fatalities in the past several years. Not only are the impact from these substantial vehicles causing deaths, but the fact that they disregard road rules make them dangerous to not just pedestrians, but other drivers on the road. Riders are speeding upwards of 20 to 30 miles per hour against red lights. New Yorkers that I've spoken with are more afraid of e-bikes than cars when they're crossing the streets. Additionally, the increase in e-bike usage has caused unprecedented deaths and home displacements from fires caused by improper charging of e-bike batteries. We support policies to address these horrific yet preventable accidents. For the safety of pedestrians and e-bike riders, e-bikes must be registered and licensed. Riders should follow traffic rules and be held accountable for their actions. Asian Wave Alliance urges the City Council to hold a hearing immediately and to pass Bob Holden's 758. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hearing now.
Hearing now! Hearing now! Hearing now! Hearing now! Hearing now!
Sean?
Hi.
From Soho Alliance.
Hi, I'm Sean Sweeney, from the director of the Soho Alliance, and I see people not from my neighborhood. I see people from all over the city wanting to register and license e-bikes. I see representatives from Queens, from Bronx, from the Upper East Side, the Upper West Side, Financial District, Chinatown. When is the city council? When is this administration? Mayor Adams and that so-called commissioner of the Department of Transportation, Rodriguez, when are they going to listen to the majority and not the lobbyists of HubGrub, not the lobbyists of City Bike, not the lobbyists from Transportation Alternatives, but listen to the majority of us?
Thank you so much. Did you want to speak? We have a cyclist that asked to speak just briefly on behalf of...
Thank you. First of all, my sorrow and my sympathy to all the victims of these ghastly accidents. We live in a lawless city because the fish rots from the head down. Yeah. This mayor doesn't care about any kind of enforcement. And one thing I haven't heard today, the e-bikes are not the only problem. The other problem is the motorbikes, which are unlicensed. They mask their license plate, and the police does nothing, even you here. Now, I took the police academy for civilians, and I learned that an institution, a police institution, is discretion. The police have the discretion to enforce or not enforce any law at any moment. So the pressure has to be on the police department from the head down to say this is an important issue because the city is becoming lawless. I am scared. When I go on the Williamsburg Bridge, I am overtaken by motorbikes that go 40, 50, 60 miles an hour, and the police does nothing. So we need that, and thank you, Mr. Councilman Holden, for your bill. I think it's a little too tame, because there are a couple of things I would like to add, okay?
That's why we need a hearing.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes. Bring it on, and thank you, and let's keep the fight on.
Thank you so much. We're wrapping up, but it's okay. We're wrapping up, but there's just something that I wanted to say. You know, I want to thank all the members of New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance that are here. None of this would happen without you. Thank you so much. And hopefully any new members, you'll see our email address there on some of the signs and our Twitter. The idea of education is a bit of a smoke screen. Everybody knows that red means stop and green means go. Everybody knows an arrow pointing this way and that way, what that means. So let's be honest about that. And then the last thing I wanted to say is we're proud at New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance. We appreciate you mentioning the mopeds. We uncovered a loophole that mopeds are being sold in moped shops legally with no license and registration. They do not have to. They can sell them without that. They always sell it without that. So you have to ride them. In order to ride them, you have to have registration and licensing, but you can buy one without it. So we went to legislators, went to Alex Forrest, we went to Brad Hoylman, and asked for legislation to be written, and it has been written. We know it's going to pass because everybody's for it, that mopeds cannot leave the store without registration and licensing at the point of sale. And we're extremely proud of that. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more speaker and then questions. Melanie, I'm going to butcher your last name. Westlock from One City Rising.
Hi, thank you. My name is Melanie Westlock. I'm here on behalf of One City Rising. We're an independent grassroots group formed to address some of New York City's most pressing issues, and this is obviously one of them. We aim to build tools to educate voters, to advocate for policies that unite New Yorkers instead of dividing them, and to create change through common sense government policies. Obviously, 758 is a common sense government policy that needs to be put in place. Issues like homelessness, mental health, education, and public safety are all things that One City Rising cares about. We enthusiastically support this bill. We thank Bob Holden. We thank EVSA for all of their hard work. I personally thank everyone who showed up here today because it's an amazing show up. I personally live on the Upper West Side. I think it's very important to mention that our councilwoman, Gail Brewer, not only refuses to sign this bill, but she's actively building a charging station at 71st and Broadway, which is already a dangerous and hectic intersection. There have been community board meetings. The community has spoken on this. They are adamant against it, yet Councilmember Brewer is forging ahead. And we can wonder why, but we know exactly why. Because of transportation alternatives, because of money that comes into politicians' pockets. We know why, and we've had enough, and we need more politicians like Joe Borelli, like Councilmember Holden. So we think it's a common sense approach to reining in the mayhem of New York City e-vehicles. We want to say thank you again to everyone for the leadership here, and please consider going to onecityrising.com to join common sense citizens looking to make a difference. So thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. We're going to take questions, but just right before we do, how about a little chant? How about enough is enough? What do you say? Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. We've had enough. And the press may have had enough at this point, but we're happy to take questions. And please tell me who you'd like, where you're from, who you'd like to direct the question at. Major outlets first.
Anything?
Anybody?
New York 1, CBS.
New York 1, CBS. Fox. Chinatown News.
From St. Paul Daily.
Chinatown Daily.
Louder. Since that, you said that you have
32 co-sponsors now.
So, can you tell us why the speaker not allow you to have a hearing? Did you ask her?
That's the $1 million question. She asked, why hasn't the speaker had a hearing on this? She could actually do it tomorrow, but we again with politics, you follow the money, right? So who owns City Bike? Let's just start with City Bike. We spoke to the leadership of City Bike, and they said, "Oh, we don't need license plates. We already have a number on each City Bike." You ever see the number? It's like a 14-point type on the side of it. Who owns City Bike now? Lyft. Who funds transportation alternatives? Lyft. So you're looking at this dirty little secret behind, the lines here. Because everybody here is common sense. We want safety. You could be a Democrat, Republican, conservative, progressive, anything, but you want safety. You want to be able to walk the streets. You want the freedom to walk safely. So why haven't the civic leaders, even in some of the neighborhoods, why haven't the bicycle organizations come forward? Why haven't the transportation alternatives, who are supposed to be about safety, why are they? You know what they're saying, by the way, why this bill should not be? Because they'll discourage, listen to this, discourage e-bike riders. Are you kidding? E-bike riders, again, do we want like tens of thousands more without control? That's what they want. They're not offering a solution. Registering is simple, and the registration fee could be $20. I don't care. Does anybody care what the registration fee is? It could be so, but just we want to identify so there's accountability.
But it's not just e-bikes, any e-vehicle.
Well, again, these vehicles, by the way, the mopeds, they're required. They're already required to have licenses, but it's not being enforced. The NYPD, every precinct has taken them off the streets, but they're really not enforcing because they say there's so many of them. You know what? Take them and get a task force together, and that's what they should be doing. But that's got to come from the mayor.
So, follow question. So this is December. So if they are not allow you to have the hearing by the end of this year. So where's the bill go next year?
Yeah, we have to start again, folks. And that's the crime here. That we have to fend for ourselves. It's very difficult to get people to sign on to a bill when they're pressured by other forces. And I don't understand that as an elected official. If you can't be true to yourself and true to public safety, because somebody's telling you what to do, you don't belong as an elected official. You don't belong. And we have to get smarter as voters. First of all, get more voters out, but we have to really hold these elected officials responsible. I mean, Gail Brewer is working against my bill. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. Actually working against my bill. I mean, it's one thing not to support it. That's bad enough. She's got to be accountable to her constituents, but to actively work against my bill.
We started on the Upper West Side. New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance started in Gail Brewer's.
New York City E-Vehicle Safety Alliance, I live in Gail Brewer's district, started, and so does Pam Manasseh, on the Upper West Side. We have more members from her, more of her constituents than anybody else.
So,
thank you.
So, Bob, my name is.
And by the way, I mean, 32 out of 51. That's the majority.
Yeah.
The majority should rule. Am I right?
Andrew.
Any other questions?
Andrew,
Yes, sir.
Christopher Leon Johnson. How you feel about yellow journalists like Streets Blog, including the journalist right over there, Julian Cuba, will make an article saying that this bill is racist? How you take that?
Well, listen, the reality is that it's free speech. People can say whatever they want. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to read it. Period.
Yeah, so how you
do
Bob,
I like it? No, but I mean, it's America.
That couldn't be farther from the truth. Absolutely has nothing to do with it. It's just an easy thing. It's the only last thing they have to say because there's no other defense.
Bank is owned by white people.
We include all bikes, so it's not just commercial. We are just as concerned about city bike. And not to throw this back, but we feel like being against this bill is ageist and ableist.
Anyone else?
I would just add that you have to consider that publications like Streets Blog, for instance, is an offshoot of Streets PAC, which is a 501c4, and they have their donors that they have to keep happy. So remember that it's a difference between blogging and journalism. Thanks. Any other questions?
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Call your representatives.
How you doing?